Hello fellow Clashers, it is Kairos time once again. Thank you so much for checking this channel out and for watching this video. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of challenge winning decks. This first one is actually a grand challenge winner that is very unique and actually a lot of fun. It takes a little bit of practice to learn how to use this deck, but once you do practice it, it is near unstoppable. I've actually played Mikey 7 a couple of times when he's used this deck, and it is not an easy deck to face. It really is not. So we'll be talking about that, but before I wanted to do that, I wanted to let you guys know that if you ever have a challenge-winning replay, feel free to go to Kairos Studios. It's a clan that I made specifically for this purpose, and post that challenge-winning replay, and maybe even a couple of them so I can learn a little bit about how you play it, understand your play style a little bit better. And then you never know if you're going to end up on the next challenge-winning replay video in my playlist. So go ahead and do that. Now also, if you are interested in joining one of my clans, please fill out an application. We currently have a couple different clans, but I am looking to expand. Right now we're even accepting applicants as low as 2,000 trophies. The description below actually has a link to the application, so you'll want to check that if you are interested. If you applied to Kairos Warriors before and didn't make it because you didn't have a high enough trophy count, you'll definitely want to resubmit an application. Now let's go ahead and start talking about this deck. Now if you do have any questions about this deck or any other questions, feel free to leave a question in the comments below. I read all of my comments, and also if you're able to help somebody else answer their questions, I'd appreciate that as well. Now this deck is a really unique one. It's a lot of fun, but it takes some practice, like I said earlier. Not only does it utilize the most recent 2 legendary cards, it also uses 3 spells and the Xbow to make for a very difficult combination to stop. Now if you don't have the Inferno Dragon, you can definitely replace it for the Inferno Tower. You'll want to use that on defense. However, that will limit your ability to go on offense because this deck not only uses the Inferno Dragon on defense, but also as a very strong offensive card, which is unique to this deck because most decks actually have a difficult time using the Inferno Dragon on offense. How it works out is you use your Inferno Dragon in the very back to try and defend a really strong push, and then once it goes to the other side, then you use that graveyard spell on the enemy tower, and by doing that, it puts your opponent in a very tough spot. It's difficult to stop both a graveyard and an Inferno Dragon in a lot of different cases, no matter what kind of deck you do have. And because of that, this deck is very strong, very difficult to stop. A lot of people are not used to playing against this type of a combination, which makes it even better right now. Now we do have 3 different spells in here. We have the Fireball to help to defend or to take out musketeers or even archers on the opponent's side of the field. You also have the arrows for the minions and the minion horde or even the skeleton army. And finally, we have Zap for goblins or skeleton army. We have these 3 different spells to try and help to make sure that your opponent cannot successfully defend against a graveyard spell easily. We also have the Xbow in this deck. Now the Xbow is a very strong card in and by itself. It is another win condition that allows you to really get some damage on your opponent's tower. Sometimes you're going to want to use the Xbow as your primary win condition, and sometimes you're also going to want to try and use the graveyard spell as your primary win condition. It all depends on what kind of troops are in your opponent's deck. If your opponent has some troops in there that are more single point damage, then it might be better to use the Inferno Dragon and the graveyard spell like Mikey is setting up right now to do. And by doing that, it makes it very hard for your opponent to stop them. This deck does a really good job against beatdown decks because of the defensive Inferno Dragon and the very offensive side of the Inferno Dragon paired up with that skeleton army. Now if your opponent has a lot of splash damage or things like that, then it might be a good idea for you to try and use the Xbow primarily as your main win condition. You can definitely use both and go back and forth. I'm going to do my best to have Mikey 7, the master of this deck, be able to answer some of you guys' questions in the comments section below. So go ahead and ask him any questions that you have regarding matchups or things like that, and he should be able to help you out in any situation. Now we're going to be talking about another deck posted by Icaros. Icaros is another member in the Kairos Kingdom clans, and he's really skilled. He's actually using an Xbow deck that is similar to the Xbow deck that I'm currently using in the ladder. Now, the Xbow is actually a really great card. I really like using the Xbow. For those of you that don't know, the Xbow used to be way too strong, and Supercell gave it a really nice nerf, and now it actually kind of went and disappeared from the meta for a while until recently when we added the Mega Minion and the Ice Golem. The two of these really cheap cards that have a fair amount of health and some pretty good DPS regarding the Mega Minion actually allows the Xbow siege style to become popular again and actually be usable. So now that we're using this, the great thing about this deck is that it uses the Mega Minion on defense, and you can also use the Ice Spirit and the Log and the Guards as well on defense with that little mini tank of the Ice Golem in front of it, and it makes for a really strong combination. Now, when it comes to using knowing when to place that Xbow, it's very important that you learn what kind of counters are in your opponent's deck before you do that. And the reason why, although you can just throw down an Xbow and usually kind of guess what your opponent's going to be doing, but one of the best things that you can do is start out with a slow push with either the Ice Golem or the Mega Minion in the back, and then place the Xbow down when they're about to cross the bridge. And the reason why that's such a good idea is because that means that you're going to have a little bit of extra elixir to place down that Xbow there so that you can defend against whatever your opponent is going to be using to try and stop your Xbow. Now the Xbow has a 3-second countdown timer, which means that your opponent has 3 whole seconds to try and react. And that's a lot of time, which means that you're gonna find a lot of situations like we just saw where there's just a bunch of troops kind of get all bunched up right in one place right there. It's a good idea sometimes for you to save your fireball for situations like that so that your opponent simply cannot stop it. Now right here you see that log was placed down. Maybe even saving that fireball to try and clear those giants would have worked out really well. Now Kairos is definitely a great player with this deck. I'm not trying to teach him how to play this deck or his own deck. What I'm saying is sometimes your opponent's going to be placing down really big swarms of troops right there, and it's a good idea to try and save that fireball for situations just like that, especially because this deck primarily focuses on a strong offense from a distance. Now that means that you're not going to be needing the fireball too much on your opponent's tower. At least you shouldn't need to just fireball it to death. You should be able to get an Xbow down and be able to take the tower down. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a question in the comments below. I want to really help the community and help them get better at the game. And so all questions are good questions. Also, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new to my channel, welcome to the Kairos family. This is Kairos Time ticking by, and we will see you in the arena. This is your conscience. You know you want to watch the next video. You know you want to just move your mouse, or if you're on a tablet, just click over there. You just click on the video. It's really good, I promise.